Some breaking TNA news. We have matches for Bound for Glory. Actual, real matches finally announced. And one's even for a title, too. Even though that title's already changed hands, hasn't aired on TV yet, so we'll pretend that hasn't happened. Samoa Joe will defend the X Division title against Low-Ki and Kaz Hayashi from Wrestle One. We also have the Great Muta and Tajiri teaming up against the Great Sonata and James Storm. TNA is saying more matches will be announced on Monday, so at least they're finally giving us a card for the biggest show of the year. That's nice of them. 4 men who won't be on the show are Lashley, Bobby Roode, and the Wolves, which was news to the Wolves, who apparently did not know they had been pulled from the show until the announcement was made in Japan. They claimed it was because of Davey's leg injury, but he wrestled a Full Metal Mayhem match at the tapings and he was fine. The real reason is because TNA took the tag titles off of them at the tapings, and that's not airing until after Bound for Glory, so they pulled them from the show. So that's the explanation for that. So here's the state of TNA right now. They are all taped through mid-November. There are no more U.S. shows scheduled for the rest of the year. No TV tapings unless they add one at the last minute. No house shows. They're done for 2014, and according to the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dixie Carter told Talent that she guarantees they will be on TV come January 7th. On what network, we still don't know. What we do know is that it won't be Spike TV. TMZ was right all along. Wherever they end up, they will likely be staying on Wednesday nights, which they should. You know, they just switched times. Now you're going to switch back. That's just dumb. They've already established their audience on Wednesdays. Just keep it on Wednesdays. If and when they reach a deal, the plan is for that first show on January 7th to air live from the Manhattan Center in New York City. I have no idea what network they'll end up on, but there is a very real possibility that it could be a channel I don't have, which could mean the end of the Impact reviews here on this show. I hope not, but that is a possibility. As it is, they're only taped through November 19th, which means they have 5 to 6 weeks of best of shows that are going to air on television until January rolls around. Because they're on Spike through the end of the year. That's what Spike said. Spike said Impact will remain on this network through the end of 2014. What that final air date is, if it's the very last Wednesday of December, that I don't know. But you got to figure there's going to be a 5 to 6 week period where they will have no new content. It's going to be all highlight shows, clip shows, best of shows, which may already be in the can for all I know. That's an awfully long stretch of highlight shows, but that's how things are looking right now. And if that happens, and someone will correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe that would be the first real off-season for a promotion with national TV, for a major national promotion with TV. Unless you go back, decades and decades earlier, I can't think of another promotion that had what would essentially amount to an off-season, which is what this would be. It would be a 5 to 6 week off-season for TNA. It would be very similar to the dark period that WCW would have gone under had Eric Bischoff been able to buy it back in 2001. The idea was to go dark for, I don't know if for a month, but at least for a few weeks, and kind of hit the reset button and get everything in order, and then relaunch with that Big Bang pay-per-view in May of 2001. That had been the plan. So that could be what happens here with TNA. And if that is the case, if they basically go dark and they have no new shows and it's all highlights for 5 to 6 weeks before they relaunch on January 7th on whatever channel they end up on, whether it's the Velocity channel or WGN America or CMT or TMZ or whatever it may be, what they need to do is very simple. They need to take those 5 or 6 weeks, lock themselves in a room for multiple days if need be, and they need to come up with a battle plan. They need to come up with a creative battle plan for the next 3 to 6 months of television. Hit the reset button and start from scratch. And by that, I don't mean take the titles off all the current champions and truly, that was Vince Russo's big idea. Had he come back to WWE in 2002, he came back for all of a day, and the first thing he wanted to do was blow everything up and reset the champions and everything else, and they said, adios. I'm not saying that, but hit the reset button as far as they've been in this rut for a while now. And the shows lately have actually been, for the most part, good to very good. I actually thought this week's show was pretty good. It's a positive review of Impact I have this week. But God knows for the longest time now, they've been stuck in this rut where nothing feels important, nothing feels special. It feels like nothing ever really truly moves forward in this company. They've been in this lame duck period now for so long. They need to sit in a room and come up with a plan on what they're going to do when they relaunch. They have to look at that launch on January 7th, wherever they end up, as the start of something new. They can't just continue on with the status quo, same old, bring back Dixie as a ratings grab. God forbid they do that. But that's what they need to do, if they haven't already done so. Lock themselves in a room and start writing shit out. Okay, have your team of guys in there. If you got the whiteboard or the blackboard, whatever it is that you have, start writing stuff down. Put everybody in a column. Okay, here are our top guys. Here are our champions. Here are our baby faces. Here are our heels. Here are the knockouts. Here's who we have. Here's who we have under contract right now, which is not very many people. There's talk that Bully Ray ain't coming back. Gail Kim's deal is up. Samoa Joe's deal is up. Who knows if they're going to be back? I would think they would be. I can't see Gail Kim going back to WWE. Frankly, I can't see Samoa Joe going to WWE either at this point. So I think a lot of those people are probably going to end up staying in TNA. But just write everything down and come up with a long-term plan. I mean, WWE, they're rewriting shows while the show is still in progress. You could see the effects are obvious what happens when you don't plan things out in advance. We're seeing it play out week after week after week on that show, and it sucks. And with all these tapings that they've been doing so far in advance, and they have their biggest pay-per-view of the year now, and they can't even send certain guys over there because things are taped that won't air until after the show, and it'll spoil things. But that's how they did it. So once they get back into a rhythm where hopefully they won't have to tape so freaking far in advance, they'll be able to plan things out a little bit better. You need to have a battle plan. And so I hope they could take that little off-season they may have at the end of the year and use it to their advantage. Don't just sit around waiting for January 7th to roll around. Actually start planning stuff out. Figure out who you have, who you may want to bring in if you even have money for that. Come up with a plan. I like the show this week, but the one thing I will say, the knock on this show, it was a completely pointless, meaningless show. It was just a show where guys wrestled multiple matches. It was a one-night gimmick they came up with. It seemed like they were completely out of ideas. It was the last of the New York City tapings, and so this was the idea they came up with. So yes, in a lot of ways, this was a completely pointless show. But what ended up happening was they gave us a bunch of really good wrestling matches. Very little in the way of bad comedy and bad skits and that sort of thing. It was as straightforward a wrestling show as you will find on any of the major shows that have cable TV. And I appreciated it. I thought it actually ended up being a pretty good show because of that.